My name is Sofia Ritzén. I'm professor in integrated product development, which is an area about how to organize and manage for innovation work. And traditionally, we have worked a lot with how to increase efficiency in industrial product development and industrial innovation work. And more we see the need to understand also how we increase innovation capability in organization and how we make companies capable of securing that they are both efficient today but also innovative tomorrow. And within this work, we also have some focus on how to integrate sustainability issues in product innovation or in innovation management. And that is, of course, a critical area since we have quite severe impacts from technologies and products that we create. And circular economy is an area that has occurred as an interesting phenomena or an interesting model. And I think that one of the reasons to why circular economy is so interesting and gives so much promises is that it combines sustainability with business development, and it has a promise of taking care of sustainability issues while also securing the growth of companies. So what is circular economy about then? Easily put, or simply put, we can say that circular economy is about material flows and business models. And if you, and I will come to that, go more into detail of the definition of circular economy, it is about circular material flows and business model. But it is also much about change, because going towards a circular economy is not something that is easily made. So circular economy is about keeping natural resources at their highest value and minimizing the negative impact from the resources that we use and still make business on this from an industrial perspective. It is an attractive model for the integration of sustainability and business. And perhaps a little bluntly speaking, we can say that we pick up resources from the biological sphere, and if that should be made in a sustainable way, we have to keep them in the technological sphere as long as possible. What happens when we go from using single product and materials in a closed loop business is that we tremendously increase the complexity and the chain challenges that we have. It's much more difficult to understand how we are managing and organizing for a circular industrial system or for other new global economic models that we might need. The complexity in developing products is increasing because the organizations that are traditionally producing products are no longer able to do that on their own. Also, from economical reasons, they have developed networks or innovation ecosystems where they are collaborating and creating partnerships. And this becomes very important when we go from a linear economic to a circular economy. So we have to go from closing single material flows to major changes in society and industry. And it is highly challenging and a difficult transition. When such a new phenomena or a circular economy arises, you as a researcher or as a teacher, you're met with that circularity is not actually new. We've been doing this for a long time, and that is true. We have in certain ways. So if we look at the industry in Sweden, we have been quite good in recycling materials for quite a long time now. We have good systems for recycling of metals, and we have, in some areas at least, a good recycling of precious elements. If we look upon the system of, for example, aluminium cans, we have a good system where we also actually have a business model that creates the driving forces for consumers to take back their product and make the recycling an efficient system. We also have an industry that have worked with professionalizing services and upgrading of products so that we expand the lifetime of products and prolong the amount of time that we use resources. And we have more and more, we see a servitification where we are selling functions instead of products. And an example is in the airplane industry where motor engine producers are actually selling flying hours instead of selling the engine themselves. So these are systems where we are closing or at least partly closing material loops and also developing new business models that makes it viable and efficient for the companies that participate in this. It is about closing material flows or closing material loops. And if this is the traditional way that we have used resources, we have to go towards this picture or this model where we are not sending products or material to disposal or energy recover, but are actually repairing them and using them again, or reusing them with new functions, or refurbishing them into new products, or recycling parts and finally raw materials, so that we keep the resources as long as possible in the technological sphere. And the closer that we can use the materials, the closer we can keep the materials to usage, the greater or the longer time we keep the value of the material, or the highest value of the materials. But then circular economy is also about business model. There's no driving force in closing the material loop unless we can also make a business out of this. And these are some examples of what we have to deal with when we also make a business model for a circular economy. So if a company is supposed to retake and reuse and remanufacture and recycle, they also have to excuse me. They also have to understand how they can make a business out of it. How can they be paid for reusing or recycling materials? And how can they be paid for an extension of life length, or if they provide also services and repairs? And it develops new relations to customers, and it develops new relations also to suppliers. How can they capture value through reselling if they have the same function but new customers? And how can they sell the function instead of selling the products, and then keep the driving forces for prolonging the life length? And while the first 4 examples of business models for circular economy is from an industrial perspective, the sharing of products might be more from a consumer's perspective. But it's still a very interesting model for how to create business models for closing material loops. And it is all about, for an organization to understand how they can define a new value proposition for the customer, how they can create this value, meaning that they can't do this on their own. They have a large system of actors which they have to relate to, and how they can capture this value. How can they be paid for closing material loops and changing what they propose as a value for the market? And circular economy is much about change. What we see is that the complexity in what the organizations deliver to the market is fundamentally increasing. The complexity is much larger. And this is due to that changes are needed in a number of different areas. If the tradition has been to produce and to sell a product, they have to have more of a system perspective and they have to sell a product service system instead. And this has a lot of implications for how the work within an organization is arranged. We see in many organizations that the work in a development department and in a sales function is actually made sort of in silos. And this is where integration comes in, that we have to see an integration between different functions in an organization in order to be able to actually develop the full system which could be proposed as a value for the market. Another thing that has to change is the manufacturing as well as the supply and distribution processes. And if manufacturing in itself has not to be changed, the company many companies have to have an ability to also take care of products in a new way. They have to collaborate with suppliers in new ways and have to distribute products in a new way, and also have a system of retaking components and products and understand how they can reuse them and still secure the same quality as they did with their original products. The value proposition in itself has to be changed. If there is a new value added on to the product, the customers have to understand what they are paying for, and the way that the companies paid for this has to be changed as well. And this has to do then with the total change of the business model. Relations to customers and suppliers are changed. And what we see is that circular economy also has a large interest from the society. And we believe that many of these industrial changes that we see in need of is actually only possible if we also have an integration to society and a collaboration with society, and that policies and regulations are changed for how we use resources and materials. And in the end, this is much about how we are organizing and managing for radical and disruptive innovations. So then more into the research that we make in the Division of Integrated Product Development in this area. When we are working together with industrial organizations, we clearly see that sustainability issues is quite seldom a strategic issue. Sustainability issues is many times handled in a separate organization. It follows regulations and what is many times connected to the end of pipe solutions. But what we clearly see is that there is a need of integration between business development and sustainability. So sustainability issues has to be put on a strategic level and have to be combined with business development. And it has large effect on the organization in organizations. So we see that integration is key between both business development and sustainability, and between functions and organizations. And with functions, we then relate to the different roles within an organization. But we also clearly see that there is a need of integration between organizations in the innovation ecosystem. And the question is then, of course, if organizations has the ability to do these kind of changes. And what we see is that many times they have very efficient organizations and have very streamlined organizations, good processes and good procedures for keeping up quality and delivering on time and securing the deliveries to market. While they have lower capabilities of actually securing that they are also innovative tomorrow. And while an efficient organization is good in streamlining their processes and keeping up quality, they have fewer capabilities in being dynamic in how they use their development resources in an organization, and they have fewer capabilities in securing and collaboration with customers and users. And when we talk about the integration between an organization and the development organization and organizations outside their own limits, we clearly see that they have a need also to integrate their collaboration with users. Many industrial organizations have a focus on their customers, and sometimes the customers is the users, but many times the users are not the customers, and then they have to go beyond the customers that they are originally collaborating with. The connection to being an efficient organization is many times that the company has an ability to exploit the resources. They have a huge knowledge on the technologies and the products that they develop, and they are good in exploiting these knowledge. But in when going towards also integrating sustainability issues on a strategic level and developing products and services in an innovation ecosystem, they also have to develop an exploration capability where they are able to be much more dynamic and allowing freedom in the development process and collaborating and including also and integrating also users in their product development processes. So integration is key. It has to be made between business development and sustainability, and this is what circular economy is promising. It's a model for integrating business development and sustainability. We need an integration between functions within an organization and between organizations. We need a competence for radical and disruptive innovations, and that has much to do with a competence to be both explorative and work with experimentation in product innovation. Thank you.